I bought a house 50-50 with my partner, but after he bailed on me the night before contractors came, argued that helping me was like being a slave, and twisted everything into absurd fights, now I feel trapped in the house we're supposed to share. When we bought the house, we promised each other it would be 50-50. Everything, money, responsibilities, decisions, effort. That was the deal, the spoken and unspoken agreement behind signing our names on the papers and walking across the threshold together. I clung to that idea in the weeks after we moved in, when I found myself being the one who sifted through contracts, guarantees, and endless repair paperwork. He didn't seem to mind that I took the lead. I told myself it was fine, that it played to my strengths, that it was just how we balanced each other. But then the practical reality started to pile up, literally. Boxes everywhere, furniture half-placed, the kind of disorder that becomes more suffocating by the day. On top of that, contractors needed space to work. We couldn't have them tripping over our mess. It meant the hallways had to be cleared, the couch had to be shifted, and stacks of boxes needed to be carried upstairs and arranged on newly built shelves. I had already built more than half of those shelves myself. They weren't complicated, but they were repetitive, stubborn things, plastic rods you have to shove in until your palms sting. I had done it late at night, sweating and sore, and I kept thinking, at least when he comes back, I won't be alone finishing the rest. I told him all this before he left on a family trip. I didn't hide the scale of what needed to be done. He sounded cheerful on the phone, even reassuring. "Don't worry," he said. "When I get back, I'll help you. It won't be a problem." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. At that point, I was already stretched thin, running on fumes. Family issues had me moving even more stuff than usual, lifting and dragging until my body felt like a machine stuck in a loop. I remember pressing the phone to my ear and asking, almost pleading, what date I should tell the contractors to come. I didn't want to choose blindly, to risk picking a day he couldn't handle. He said it himself. The date he chose would work. When he came back, I reminded him gently. Not in an accusatory way, but with nudges. We should probably start moving things, maybe do it a bit at a time. I thought if we chipped away at it, it would be easier. He waved me off, confident. "It's fine. We can do it last minute. Don't stress." I tried to trust that confidence. I wanted to. He did help here and there in small, specific ways. One afternoon, he held a hose for me while I scrubbed out containers. Another day, he carried about 8 boxes upstairs, spread across the hours. I said thank you, meant it, but I also knew it barely scratched the surface. The bulk of the work remained untouched, looming in the corners of the house. At one point I asked him directly, "You're not going to bail on me, right?" I hated how vulnerable it sounded, but I had to hear him say it. He looked at me and said, "Of course not." That promise mattered to me. I tucked it away like a safety net. Then the day before the contractors came, I asked if he wanted to start early. My nerves were buzzing by then. The house still looked like a puzzle unsolved. He leaned back, sighed, and said he needed a break. "We've been doing too many things together," he told me. I blinked at him, caught off guard. Too many things? I thought about the past week, groceries, making the bed, cleaning the puddle left after he left the window open in the rain. None of it had felt like bonding marathons. It was just life. We had also gone out to eat, watched shows he liked, shared quiet evenings. To me, that was normal partnership. To him, apparently, it was an overload. "Okay," I said carefully. "As long as you promise we'll finish tonight." He nodded, and I wanted to take that as enough. I held on to the idea that after dinner, we'd roll up our sleeves and tackle the piles together. But when night came, he turned on his computer instead. He had a game scheduled with his team. I told myself it would be quick, that we could still get started afterward. Hours passed. At some point, he came into the room, his face tight with frustration. "We didn't do well," he said. "I want to go review the games with the guys. We need more time." I just stood there, staring at him. The words caught in my throat. I could feel this dull ache in my chest, the kind that comes not from anger, but from disappointment layered, so thick it becomes heavy. He was asking for more time with them, while I had been asking for weeks for his time here. In that moment, it wasn't about boxes or couches or shelves anymore. It was about what promises meant, and how selectively he seemed to honor them. He had told me he wouldn't bail. He had chosen the contractor date himself. He had looked me in the eye and said it would be fine. And here he was shrugging it all off because he wanted to keep playing games with his team. When he finally finished gaming, it was already past midnight. The contractors were coming at 9 the next morning. I didn't have the luxury of wasting another hour. As soon as I heard his computer shut down, I jumped up and said, "Okay, let's start." I was exhausted, running on fumes, but I thought if we worked together we could get it done in a couple of hours. At first, he carried a couple of things half-heartedly. I took that as a start and tried to keep us moving. We should shift some of this over here to make room for the shelves, I said, already lifting one end of a box. But then he stopped me. He didn't reach for the other end of the box. He just sat down on the couch and said, "We should talk about this." The words hit me like a punch in the stomach. I knew instantly what that meant. He was about to bail. The urgency in me turned to panic. The clock was ticking, and the house was still a minefield of clutter. "Please," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just help me like you promised. I'm already stressed about the time." He leaned back, casual, almost patronizing. "We don't need to do all that. Your plan doesn't make sense. You're just hurting yourself." I was sweating, literally moving things around while he sat there telling me I was doing it wrong. "If you want to talk," I snapped, "we can talk while working. But we don't have time to sit down for a whole debate." He shook his head. "No. Leave everything and come to the bedroom. We'll talk there." I couldn't believe it. I stared at him, then at the piles of boxes still around me. "If you don't stay and help me," I said, my voice breaking, "I won't believe in you again." He just stood up, walked away, and tossed over his shoulder, "Come talk to me when you want to get things done." I was stunned. My throat felt raw, my chest hollow. And then there was nothing to do but keep going because the work wouldn't do itself. The rest of the night turned into a kind of private hell. I'm 4 feet 11 inches and not very strong. He's 5 feet 8 inches, easily stronger than me. But there I was, dragging boxes twice my size, pushing furniture across the floor in fits and starts, sweating through my clothes. It took me over 4 hours to make any kind of real progress. By then my arms were trembling, my back aching, but I had gotten the house into something resembling readiness. And yes, I did petty things. Toxic things. I was angry and desperate. At one point I unplugged the router and hid it. For once, I saw him frantic, searching around the house with real urgency. It struck me, he could move fast, he could care, but only when it was about the internet. Not me. Not us. Not the house we supposedly shared. Later, when he started strumming his guitar loudly in another room, I stormed in and told him to stop. It wasn't fair. I knew it wasn't healthy, but I was at my breaking point. I cried until my chest hurt, sobbing so hard I could hardly breathe, because I felt abandoned in my own home by the one person who was supposed to be my partner. Around 5, maybe 6 in the morning, he came back. Not with an apology, but with conditions. "I'll help you," he said, "but only if we talk first." I wiped my face, raw from crying, and listened. "You're hurting yourself just to prove a point," he said flatly. "That's why I walked away. You're romanticizing hard work. You've got a problem." I shook my head, my voice trembling. "I'm just trying to stick to the plan. We had to clear the hallways, make space for the painters. That's all I've been saying." "You don't need to do all that," he insisted. "Do the bare minimum. Who cares if a couple of your things get damaged? You're putting this stuff above me." The words stung. It wasn't that I cared about things more than him, it was that I cared about keeping promises, about making sure the contractors could actually do their job, about not wasting the money we were both paying. We went back and forth, but nothing really came of it. He didn't hear me. I didn't trust him. And still, with dawn creeping through the blinds, we dragged ourselves through the last of the boxes and shelves together. By around 7 in the morning, the house was finally passable. I collapsed where I stood, too drained to even shower. My body was shaking from exhaustion. 2 hours later, the painters arrived. I had asked him days before to be there with me, to help oversee the process. But when I looked over at the bedroom, he was still in bed, under the covers, sleeping as if the night had been nothing to him. Something inside me broke after that night. It wasn't just about the boxes or the shelves, or even the fact that I had to face the painters alone while he slept. Something switched in me, a quiet but unshakable shift. I realized I could no longer believe in him, no longer see a future with him. I'd always known he had a history of laziness, of avoiding responsibility, of not keeping his word. But I thought, naively maybe, that he'd gotten better. I thought that with this house, with something tangible and serious binding us together, he would show up differently. He always said over and over that if something was really important to me, he would come through. And when it finally was, when I spelled out my plan days in advance, when I asked him directly if he could handle it, when I reminded him and gave him every chance, he still didn't. Now, instead of owning any of it, he turns it around on me. He tells me it's my fault because I didn't talk. That word has become a weapon in his mouth.
Talk.
As if the problem was not his inaction, his broken promises, his indifference, but my failure to sit down on his terms, at his timing, to have a conversation that could have happened any other moment. Why couldn't we talk while working? Why did it have to be in the bedroom? At midnight, the night before contractors were due, at 9 a.m. Why couldn't he bring it up earlier, or at least after we had done the work he promised to help with? Every angle I look at it from, the same question echoes. Why couldn't he just help me? The next day, I tried again. I was drained, but I thought maybe if I explained it clearly enough, he would understand why this was a major issue. I told him I felt like I could not rely on him, that I had outlined my plan for days, kept checking in, kept asking if he was okay with it, that the timing mattered, that being abandoned at the last moment mattered. He didn't hear any of that. Instead, he cut in with, "Well, you were just telling me what to do. Do you want a slave?" I froze. "It's not about that," I said, trying to stay calm. "It's about timing. It's about consideration. It's about you promising to be there, and then disappearing. It's about how." But he wouldn't let me finish. He just kept repeating the same question over and over. "Do you want a slave? Do you want a slave?" It was like talking to a wall. Like he'd found a phrase he could hide behind, a deflection so absurd it swallowed the whole conversation. After enough rounds of it, after my throat was hoarse from trying, I was too exhausted to keep resisting. "Fine," I snapped. "If that's how you want to see it, then yes, I want a slave. Maybe that means we're not compatible." And then he hit me with it. "So, you think the slave should have never been freed?" I just stared at him. I'm a person of color.
He's white.
And he had the gall to twist a desperate conversation about our relationship, our house, our trust into that? Into a smug, rhetorical jab that mocked both my exhaustion and my identity? What was I even supposed to say to that? The sheer absurdity of it, the cruelty. It knocked the air out of me. It made me realize how impossible talking to him really was. Because when I try to speak honestly about my feelings, he dodges, derails, twists. He doesn't meet me where I am. He demands I meet him on his terms, then distorts my words until they're unrecognizable. It's exhausting. And now, when I'm at my angriest and most heartbroken, I find myself angry at him for betraying my trust, but also angry at myself for ever having trusted him in the first place. For thinking things would be different. For believing the promises he made so casually. I feel trapped. I love this house. It's the first place that ever felt like mine. But I can't buy him out, can't simply erase him from it. And when I told him I didn't want to share a room anymore, that we should at least separate our spaces in the house to make it livable, he just laughed. He laughed at me. He said I was being irrational, that couples should always talk. As if talking fixes everything. As if talking isn't the very battlefield where he refuses to fight fair. He told me he was willing to give me another chance, so I should give him one too. Like he's the benevolent one, the patient one, while I'm the irrational, unreasonable partner who needs to be forgiven. The arrogance of that floors me. I keep replaying the night in my head, me dragging furniture with aching arms while he sat on the couch telling me my plan was stupid. Me crying at 5 a.m. while he accused me of romanticizing hard work. Me asking him to just do what he promised and him walking away. I don't know how to move forward from that because the truth is it showed me something I can't unsee. It showed me that I can't rely on him. That his word is worth nothing. That when I need him most, he'll either disappear or weaponize talking to avoid lifting a finger. That even when I'm on the verge of breaking, he'll twist my exhaustion into a joke, a trap, a grotesque rhetorical game. Something switched to me that night, and I don't think it can be switched back. I can't see him the same way anymore. I can't look at our house without remembering dragging those boxes alone at dawn. I can't hear the word talk without feeling dread in my stomach. And I can't picture a future with someone who would rather play games, argue semantics, and mock my feelings than simply stand beside me and help.